This is Studio 809.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I'm your host, Hiking Bob Falcone, and you can find me on my website at hikingbob.com, which is links to my social media, the other podcasts I've done, my photography website, all that other kind of good stuff. You can also contact me there with a contact me link that you can send me an email, comments, thoughts, questions, suggestions for topics or other guests to be on the podcast. And also you can sign up for my newsletter, which comes out once a week. It typically has a lot of information on there that just doesn't fit into a podcast or came out after the podcast or all kinds of stuff like that. So sign up for all that stuff at hikingbob.com. Joining me today is my co-host, Kevin Wild Westendorf. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, everyone. It's Kevin Wild Westendorf here, and I'm here to seize the moment. Sorry, that was a horrible joke. But
kind of an inside joke if you know what's been going on with Kevin the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. But yeah, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Wild Westendorf and on my website, wildwestendorf.wordpress.com.
Cool. Well, Kevin, since you mentioned seize, seizing the day, we'll just recap real quick here. You had a seizure, I guess almost 2 weeks ago now, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago?
It was the Sunday before last.
Sunday before last. So about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago by the time this comes out. And
Yeah.
You never had one before, so a scary situation for everybody. And if I recall correctly, still no idea what happened. You still have to see a neurologist, which is still a couple weeks out. That's kind of it. But you look like you're doing okay, and you're spending time at your mom's house because you can't drive until they figure out what's going on. Does that pretty much sum it up?
Yep, and I'm definitely feeling much better now than I was last week. I can't remember if I mentioned this on the podcast last week, but it felt like I got hit by a train, or I did a 50-mile hike in the Grand Canyon. My whole body was just wrecked. I could barely move. It hurt to if I sat down, it took me a few seconds to get out of the couch or the chair. Right now, I'm feeling, I want to say about 85% fine. I still have a little bit of a limp because a part of a muscle in my hip area still feels really tight. It's not painful. It just feels really tight. So I'm not exactly sure what's happening there. But yeah, so I'm currently staying with my mom, but I will be going home probably by the time you hear this podcast. I'm very excited about that. I love my mom. She's taking care of me, but she likes to keep her house very cold. So I'm excited to go to my apartment where I can make it a little bit warmer.
Cool. And, along with something like this, you had the seizure at a restaurant, you ended up with an ambulance ride to the emergency room, all of which can be pretty expensive, whether you have insurance or not. So the other day you started a GoFundMe to kind of help you with the cost of that. You just want to talk about that real quickly?
Yeah, so I started a GoFundMe thanks to the suggestion of one of my friends who was at the restaurant. His parents were there too, and his mom is a former nurse, so she was one of the ones that knew exactly what to do and instructed my friends on how to take care of me. And she came over, and her and my goddaughter came over and brought me lunch last week. And she just casually mentioned, hey, have you thought about a GoFundMe? And I just, that never occurred to me. And I almost didn't do one because of pride, but I was also in panic mode because of the layoff that happened in January, and just been having a rough time finding a job, and at the time, no insurance. So I was just kind of, like I said, I was in panic mode. So I decided to set one up, and my mom told me to set it at a really high limit or goal. I mean, to be on the safe side, I guess. I'm not actually trying to seek that much money in terms of what the goal is, just whatever anyone can donate. I thought I was going to be maybe a couple grand at the most, but I've gotten way more support than I thought I would. And so I just want to thank any of our listeners who have donated or written in support or given advice. I'll be honest, the other night I got really emotional just thinking about wow, I have a community out there that is supporting me and helping me. So thank you all. I really appreciate it. This has been a huge weight off my shoulders it's really helping me being able to get back to focusing more on getting the help that I need in terms of medical stuff and getting back on track with the job search too. And not have to worry, not have this dark cloud of medical debt weighing on top of me. So again, thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate it. And if you want to support, you can find a link on my Facebook and my Instagram.
And in last week's newsletter that I sent out, I put a link there in it, and I will post the link in the show notes for the podcast here too. So even with insurance, sometimes it's hard to, unless you pay a lot every month for the insurance for coverage you may or may not need. You have a serious medical event happen, and it can be pretty devastating financially, even if you don't have insurance, or even if you do have insurance. So, I'm glad that you have a wide support group out there, and people are stepping up. I've heard people email me, what can we do? We've donated, maybe try this or that, and we've heard from people about it. So there's a lot of support out there, and I'm glad that's working out. Probably takes a lot of load off your mind. I'm sure the bills probably haven't even started coming in yet, but when they come in, they're probably going to be a little scary.
Yeah, I'm going to have a fresh pair of pants next to me when I open up the bills.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. All right, buddy. Well, you look good. Like I said, you sound good. I'm glad that you're feeling better. So hopefully we can move on from this pretty quickly and find out what's going on. I'm hoping that it was just a one-off. We talked last week that you were dehydrated, you had some other issues. I'm hoping that it's just a one-off thing and they don't find anything permanent, and you can just go about your life and not have to worry about it anymore. So fingers crossed.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see what happens next. Kevin, let's kind of move on to the next topic. We had a kind of a short list of things we wanted to talk about today. One of the other ones that we wanted to discuss was the city of Colorado Springs is getting started with doing work in our parks. It's barely springtime. Probably going to see some snow by the time this comes out or shortly thereafter again. But they're working on a number of projects. So let's kind of hit a couple of things here. So pretty exciting stuff in North Cheyenne Canyon Park, which you and I both have a lot of history in, and having hiked there a lot, being on the friends group there and stuff like that. They're doing a lot of work in North Cheyenne Canyon Park. So they've got a couple of projects going on all at the same time. One of which is the Ladders Trail, which is a how do we describe that trail? It's just another trail they have in the park. And that is a trail that is, I want to say that is a multi-use. I'll give you a description of it here. 2.5 mile. They're making a 2.5 mile addition to the Ladders Trail, which will provide a multi-use, multi-direction connection from Captain Jack's to Gold Camp Road to the Stratton Open Space. They're going to be putting in a new trail interchange feature at the intersection of the Ladders Trail and Captain Morgan's Trail, which would be west of Gold Camp Road. That kind of goes along with Captain Morgan's Trail and the Penrose Trail, two trails that are kind of in the park, have never been really official trails. They've always been what we used to call them social trails. Now I think a new term for that is a rogue trail, meaning that they were never really officially put there, but they were put there over time. That these are two trails that the city parks department looked at and goes, well, we didn't put these in, but we can actually use these trails. Because the city has been closing down. The city and a lot of entities, the Forest Service, have really been aggressive on closing down trails that are not supposed to be there. A lot of times it's because they're not well built, they cause erosion, they go places they don't want them to go to, they're sensitive habitat, they may encroach on private property, any number of reasons. These are two trails that the city parks department said, you know what, these are actually pretty good trails. And maybe we need to reroute them a little bit and do some work on them to get them up to snuff. We're actually going to keep these two trails. So the Captain Morgan's Trail, which is off of Gold Camp Road up in the upper end of North Cheyenne Canyon, and the Penrose Trail, are all being officially adopted into the system as part of this this trail project going on in North Cheyenne Canyon. So the Ladders Trail, if we talked about, connect from Mid-Columbine Trail to Captain Jack's and Gold Camp and Stratton Open Space. They're going to put in some pretty innovative timber bridges for bike traffic on Captain Morgan's across above the new Ladders Trail. Sounds like a pretty interesting project. So there's a lot of information about that on the Colorado Springs website. If you got my last newsletter, there is information there. If not, I will include links in the show notes for both of these projects. So that is underway right now. That may also require closing Gold Camp Road. The dirt road through the top end of North Cheyenne Canyon is probably going to be closed for here and there as they do that project. I believe actually it's going to be closed until mid-April. Then they'll reopen it. While they're doing those trails, they're also going to they're not resurface, it's a dirt road, but they're going to do some surface work on the road. As you and I know, Kevin, that road can be pretty miserable to ride on. It can be potholy, and I'm talking about potholes that you could probably lose a smart car in someplace. It just disappeared out of those potholes. Washboardy. So they're going to be doing work on the road while they're doing the work on these trails. Kind of a smart move. You're going to close the road anyway. Might as well do work on the road. So that's going on right now. But it's pretty interesting to see that work is actually going on, and pretty excited to see that happen. The other thing is that in Garden of the Gods, they're doing some work on a ravine that is next to let me see if I can pop this up here. Doing work on a ravine that is next to the Ute Trail in Garden of the Gods. And it sounds like it was just some work that needs to be done to fix drainage and things like that. There's going to be a detour on that. Access to some climbing walls is going to be closed for a little bit of time. There's some, you can rock climbing in the Garden of the Gods on certain rocks if you have a permit and you're properly equipped. So that's going to happen. Some bike lanes on Juniper Way Loop are going to be closed or adjusted during this. There's going to be flaggers present during any closures. So again, obey the flaggers if they tell you to stop or go a certain direction. Obey what they say. If there's a closure, there's a closure. Don't go through the closure. Just they're doing work to make things better for all of us to enjoy. So work with the staff and the people out there who are doing these projects, and let's all work together on making these projects a little bit better. Kevin, are you familiar with some of these trails, the Captain Jack's and the Captain Morgan's and some of these other trails?
So I am well aware of Captain Jack's, because the first time I hiked on that, I did not know that it was unofficially a mountain biking trail. I know it's a multi-use trail, but I try to avoid that trail anyway when I'm on foot. I have heard of Captain Morgan's in passing. I didn't know it was a rogue trail. I thought people were just confusing Captain Jack's with Captain Morgan. So, and I'm embarrassed to say, with how much work I've done in Cheyenne Canyon, and especially the amount of hiking I've done, I never knew about this Ladders Trail. So when I saw the press release about that, I was very excited. I was like, oh, cool. I get to discover more of the park that was apparently there, and I just didn't know it was. So I'm really, really excited for when they finish the trail projects and I get to go back out there and explore.
Cool. Yeah, it's good work they're doing up there. And what's nice is they're doing this with a number of groups, Colorado Springs Mountain Bike Association, the Friends of Cheyenne Canyon. Again, like most of these other projects, a grant here, a donation there, money from this fund, that fund, another fund, and they managed to put enough money together to make these projects work. So that's great news, and that is some nice stuff to see. And I'm glad they're starting that early. Usually they don't start these projects for a couple more months down the road. I guess they're betting on good weather. But the nice thing is they're doing them now when the usage is a little less than it will be in a couple months from now.
Oh, yeah.
Spring, spring and summer really kick in, things get really busy. So they're working on those projects now, and I think they're all for the good. I mean, they are improving things, especially that one project in Garden of the Gods. Sounds like it's a drainage type of issue, going to make things better. So all that stuff is good, and probably a whole lot more projects coming down the road. One of the other things that's going on right now is the Blodgett Open Space Master Plan is about to wind down. So a week after you hear this podcast, in April, the first Wednesday in April, the TOPS Working Committee that I chair will be meeting to finalize its recommendations on whether to adopt the master plan that has been worked on for close to a year now with the City Parks Department and members of the TOPS Working Committee, the Park Advisory Board, citizen groups, specific recreational user groups have all been a part of that, the neighborhood groups, HOAs. So that'll be coming up. And I believe that there was a news release from the city that they also got a grant already to start planning for some of the trail projects that are included in this master plan. That master plan is wind down. After the TOPS Working Committee makes its recommendation, it goes to the Park Advisory Board, who then has the final say, and they make the decision on whether to approve it and move forward or not. These projects don't typically go to City Council. The Park Advisory Board has the final say, so to speak. However, if people are unhappy with it or if they want to file an appeal, they can go to City Council. I don't know what's going to happen after that, but about a week after this podcast comes out, the TOPS Working Committee will make their recommendation. After which time it'll go the following week to the Park Advisory Board that will make their final decision on this, and then hopefully we can get those projects. So there's a lot of projects planned for out there underway. Improved parking, additional parking, new trailheads, new trails. Pretty good deal. So a lot of, and then with that ending, they're starting on the Fishers Canyon Open Space Master Plan, which is that piece of land on the east face of Cheyenne Mountain, kind of between the zoo and Cheyenne Mountain State Park. Big swath of land, beautiful piece of land. I've been up there. Gorgeous. They're going to start working on the master plan project for that. So they're moving from one master plan to another. The City Parks Department is not wasting any time. They're buying these properties and trying to get them built out as soon as they can.
Well, that's awesome.
So a lot of stuff going on. Busy times. I envision there being a very busy summer for the City Parks Department, besides just with visitors and users and stuff like that. I think they've got a lot of stuff going on. And
I'm not saying our listeners are anywhere remotely like this, but please be patient and let them get work, because every time there's a project in the park, I see all kinds of vicious comments on Facebook. And it's just a bummer, because the city is trying to make the parks better for us and those who come after us too.
You know, Kevin, it's as I've been sitting back and watching this Blodgett Open Space Master Plan unfold, and I've had other than being on the working committee, I've had a peripheral involvement in it, because we have two very good representatives from the working committee who are part of the stakeholder group. And I want to make this clear, I am talking in very big generalities, not necessarily about the Blodgett Master Plan or any of the neighbors or anything like that. But there is certainly a mentality in general in society right now that people's attitudes seem to be, I want this project to go my way and my way only, and I don't want anybody else to have any input, and I don't want to go anybody else's way, which is not a healthy situation. We are all in this together, and you're not going to get everything you want. Nobody does. Welcome to the real world of being an adult. You don't get everything you want. The best you can do is try to get some of what you want and hope for the best. But there's some people who say, well, if I don't get everything I want, nobody should get anything they want either. And that's just, well, it's juvenile, to be honest with you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So those projects are all kicking off. One more thing that's happened is that there's been a big advance in mobility for users of our state park, Cheyenne Mountain State Park, who have an issue with being able to move around and go hiking and cycling and stuff like that. So people may remember last year I interviewed one of the people from El Paso County Parks about their accessibility mobility program. And they have a vehicle called a terrain hopper, which looks like a souped up ATV. It is designed to be operated with hand controls that, can be operated remotely. And basically it's and they go very slow. They go walking pace. Designed for people who are not able to walk or cycle or run, to be able to sit in this device. It's very low to the ground. It's got a lot of protection around it, that they can now go out on the same trails that we hike on and enjoy those trails. So El Paso County bought 2 of those devices, those terrain hoppers. They have them at Bear Creek Park, and I believe one at Fountain Creek Regional Park. The exciting news is, and I've known about this for a while, but I couldn't say anything because we were under kind of a quarantine around it, is that Cheyenne Mountain State Park has recently taken possession of 2 of these devices themselves.
2, okay.
Yeah, they got 2. And to give you an idea, the company will tell you they cost about $18,000-$19,000. In reality, when you buy extra batteries and this accessory and that accessory and all this other stuff, they end up being closer to $28,000-$29,000 a piece.
Oh, wow.
But they're built like tanks. So the staff management at Cheyenne Mountain State Park expressed interest in getting some kind of mobility device. They spent a lot of time looking at the county's program, how they do it, what device they bought. They bought the terrain hopper, which is actually the name, the terrain hopper, and put together some funding from various grant sources to buy one for the park. As they were putting in they got all this money, as they were putting in the order to buy it, a family foundation, there was one family foundation that donated about half the price of the first one, half the value of the first one. There was another family completely separate that said, hey, we heard you're getting one of those. How much is it? They were told how much it was, and they said, well, here's a check. Go buy another one. So these different...
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible how this works. So they've been developing a program on how to use it. Basically what happens is people who want to come out and enjoy the trails and want to use one of these will have to reserve it, because there's only 2. They go very slow, so it's not like you're not gonna do 5 or 10 people a day in these things, maybe 2 or 3 a day with how far apart they have to be scheduled, how much time out there. Reserve one. That program is going to go into effect in Cheyenne Mountain, I think, after Memorial Day, but they will be out there. So in May, starting in the end of May, I believe, people who have mobility issues and want to go out and enjoy Cheyenne Mountain State Park will now have a method of being able to do that. And that is a tremendous thing. We're seeing more and more of this. Staunton State Park bought what they call a track chair, a different kind of device. It looks more like it runs on little tank treads and looks more like a wheelchair than an ATV. City of Colorado Springs has gotten some of those. Basically, there are these 2 devices, either a track chair or a terrain hopper. There are pros and cons to both of them, how they work, what they do. But the big advantage is people who can't normally go out and enjoy these trails will now get the opportunity to enjoy some of these trails. I think it's just a tremendous thing, and I'm happy to have been a small, tiny little part of it, with being on the board at the Friends of Cheyenne Mountain State Park. And I just think it's tremendous. We're hearing from people who, for example, the county has a story where they talk about where a husband and wife used to go hiking the trails all the time. And then she had a medical issue and she can't go out. So her husband would go out hiking, and the entire time he was hiking, he would be FaceTiming her. So she would enjoy, by way of her cell phone, what he was enjoying. Well, now with their terrain hopper, she gets to go back out there, because now she gets to go back out with him and once again enjoy the trails in person instead of having to do it over a phone on FaceTime or something like that. Just tremendous what we're going to be able to do with these things. This is the next big thing in outdoor recreation, is parks and parks departments, with help with grants and friends groups and all this other kind of stuff, will now be buying these devices, and more people will be able to go out. Again, you're not going to be able to do every trail out there. As we know, these are not, they look like ATVs, they kind of act like ATVs, but they're not designed for anything radical. They go very slow. You won't be able to do every trail, but you will be able to go out and enjoy some of the trails that people are not currently able to go enjoy. I think it's just a tremendous program, and I think it's great that we've got leadership in our various parks departments, and El Paso County just really kicked this in the butt when they started it, and everybody's looking at them going, how do you run your system? Where'd you get these things? How'd you spec them out? What'd you do? I think it's awesome.
Oh, that's amazing news, because I actually saw a TikTok of, I want to say a couple months back, of someone in the LA area. I'm not sure if it's City Park or State Park. I don't remember the name of it, but they also have these. I'm not sure. I can't remember if it's like the ATV style or the one with the treads, but this person who was paralyzed when he was a teenager, and was just bedridden, just kind of was stuck to a little wheelchair, or a motorized wheelchair. And I'm sure we've all seen those out in public at the stores, and those are clearly not made to go up a sidewalk. Like they have to be on something that's paved and smooth. And this guy, like, he was with his girlfriend and mom, I think, and they reached a certain summit right outside of LA, and like he started crying because it was the first time he'd been able to go on a hike in 15 years or something. And because I think it's important that the outdoors be accessible to everyone as much as possible. Hopefully in the future we can have like the cybernetic mech suits, so that they can go and hike on top of Mount Everest and stuff. But that's probably a few years away. But at least for now, I think it's great, because the outdoors is a very special place. It's good physically and mentally. It, like, every time I go out, it lifts my spirits. And I think everyone deserves that. And so I'm really, really glad to see a lot of progress being made here with that.
Yeah, I'm a little wary about the cybernetic exoskeleton things. Not because I fear anybody having more mobility. I just worry that they're going to start getting a mind of their own and rebel on us, which would not be a good thing. But you're right. Not only is it good for people who have never been able to go out and enjoy them, but it's good for people who used to be able to go out and something happened, they get sick, have an accident, whatever happens, and now they're able to go back out and enjoy what they used to enjoy and may not have been able to do for a while. I think this is really, I'm envisioning that as trails are built in new parks, that there may be some, hey, we need to make 3 miles of trails, for example, a little wider and a little smoother, so that we can get people on them who are going to be using these mobility devices that we're also going to purchase as we make this park, or something like that. Like I said, you're not going to be able to go everywhere. There's limitations, in what they can climb. There's, obviously limitations in battery life, how long the battery lasts. It's not like an e-bike where if the battery goes dead, you can just pedal. These are not Flintstone mobiles. We just put your feet down and, so there's a lot of I should say a lot. There's a few limitations. You can use these to go places you're just not able to go to. Like I said, motorized wheelchairs are great. They're not designed for rugged terrain. These things are. So I think it's just a wonderful thing. I envision that these are going to become a bigger and bigger amenity for parks to purchase and plan for as they're building new trails and stuff like that. I think it's just tremendous. And I am super happy that at Cheyenne Mountain we now have those devices. And I believe Pike Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance and Trails and Open Space Coalition are actually working on creating a guide for accessible trails for people, so they can look up, cool. There's guides you get, where are the good hiking trails, where are the good biking trails. There's going to actually have a thing for accessibility, which I think is just great. I don't envision anything wrong, anything bad with any of this. All of this is a positive. I'd be surprised if somebody came up with something negative about it, and I'd probably be pretty upset if they did. There's nothing negative here. This is really all positive to get more and more people out on our trails who deserve at least the opportunity to go out there.
Well, if you want to avoid anything possibly bad about this, avoid comments on Facebook.
Don't get me started. Avoid the trolls. Just know that this is a good thing. this is a good thing. It's going to be very positive, and I'm super excited about it. I know at Cheyenne Mountain we're super excited about it. What they're doing there is they're having one of their seasonal employees who was there last year and the next one coming in. They've been developing a plan on how to do it. We're going to start training volunteers and staff because somebody will have to go with you. But these devices are designed that the user, the person in the seat, can operate it. If they can't, there's a joystick, that can go from one side to the other. So if you only can work with your left side or your right side, that joystick can move from one side to the other. And if you can't do that, the person going with you will actually be able to, that joystick comes off and is on a cable, and they'll be able to, steer it and move it forward and backwards and all that kind of stuff, so that the person in there can still enjoy themselves, even if they can't use it on their own. All great stuff. So it's all just wonderful. There's nothing negative, unless you said you listen to some idiot on Facebook who's going to have something stupid to say. I have a suggestion of what they could do with their thoughts. I don't see how anybody possibly think that this is a bad thing. Anyway.
Same here. I think it's amazing.
Kevin, the last thing I had, and for the listener, we apologize. Both Kevin and I are having internet connectivity issues. So if things sound a little choppy, or if they don't make a whole lot of sense, just to take our apologies that we're 900 miles apart and somehow we're both having internet connection problems at the same time. I'm not sure how that works, but we're going to try and avoid that. Anyway, one last thing, Kevin, is as you probably are aware, because you can't read a newspaper article without hearing about it, there's a big solar eclipse coming in April 8th. And the last time there was one was back in 2017, and that one went right across Colorado, I shouldn't say across Colorado. It was north of us. It was in Wyoming, and it basically started in the Pacific Northwest and went across down to the Gulf. I went out to Scottsbluff, Nebraska, and got some tremendous pictures of it. There is another one that is going to happen on April 8th. That one is going to kind of start in the Gulf and is going to head up toward the northeast. So it's going to go through a big chunk of the huge population base of the country, basically over the Appalachian Mountains. It's going to be in upstate New York. It's going to be huge. And here's the weird part, almost kind of scary when you're an old fart like me, is that the next solar eclipse, total solar eclipse to strike to be seen in North America is going to be 40 years away.
Oh, wow.
I don't know about you all, but 40 years away is a long time for somebody old like me. So anyway, it will be visible only to a certain degree in Colorado, probably like 40 or 50% visible between 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. The max part of the eclipse will be at 12:30. It's not going to be a complete eclipse. And if you want to see it completely, you're going to have to go at least, further east than even, you probably need to go to Missouri. You need to get out into the, way east of us to go see the whole thing. But if you want to see that, you can see part of it here. It is a solar eclipse. You need eye protection. You need all that kind of stuff. I'll post a link to a couple different articles. I've been posting them on my newsletter, but I'll post a link to some different articles about how to be able to view that, and even one on how to take pictures of it with the right equipment. Be careful how you take pictures of it. You could kill your camera. If you got expensive gear like me, you do not want to fry your camera. But anyway, so that's stuff that'll be available there. Kevin, I think that's all I had for today. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about today?
Well, I've got two things real quick. I did see the solar eclipse in 2017 in the parking lot of a Starbucks in Flagstaff.
Cool.
Because I knew about it, so I made sure, because I was actually driving home from Las Vegas after my cousin's wedding, and I knew it was going to happen the day I was going to be in Flagstaff, so I made sure I had the solar sunglass thing. You can find those everywhere. And I remember being in the drive-through line, and I was like, it's going to happen any minute now. Like, hurry up. And then as soon as I parked the car, it started, and it's a very odd, surreal experience because it's like day and nighttime mixed together in a weird way. It's very interesting, but it was just really, really cool. So put on the sunglasses and I just watched it, and it passes by very quickly. It lasts just a few minutes. I mean, it's not a long. It's not like this moon parks in front of the sun and just stays there for like an hour and then it goes. So if you're able to get a good view of it, especially if you're a listener out east, definitely take advantage of the time to go out and see it. Especially since the next one is not going to be for another 40 years. I think we've been very, very lucky to have one in 2017 and 2024 so close together. It's just might be a once in a lifetime thing for a lot of people. I think it's awesome. And my second thing is because I'm staying with my mom for the time being, just to make sure I don't have like another seizure or whatever. I've been like crazy with cabin fever, and my mom lives way out in the east in the suburbs. And one day I was looking through Google Maps and I was like, oh, there's a trail out here, and it's the Sand Creek Trail. And so I decided to go for a walk, with my limp. So I was definitely not at my like 3.1 mile per hour speed. But it's a really, really nice trail. It's flat, it's well manicured. Some of it is paved. It's paved more close towards the roads and stuff. The trail goes under a lot of the roads too, like Stetson Hills and Dublin and Woodman especially, which is really important because Woodman is almost a highway now. And I was surprised to see that the Sand Creek itself had a lot of water, which I'm assuming it's from the snow that we've gotten. And there's certain parts along the Sand Creek itself where there's enough trees around you that you kind of don't realize you're in the middle of the suburbs, and it's really nice. And it's just nice to get out there to stretch my legs, and explore a part of the city that I otherwise would never take the time to drive out to go on a quick hike on the Sand Creek Trail. Especially because where I live is right next to Bear Creek and Red Rock Canyon, so I've got a million trails right there. So yeah, if you happen to live on the east side of town, check out the Sand Creek Trail. I know it looks like it goes all the way out east, north of Woodman. And the part that I was on, it goes north of Woodman, and it looks like it ends there. And then it seems to end going south at the Vibe Stadium. But I do know once you get past Constitution going south, I do believe the trail continues past that. And I've heard that they're working on like a bike trail that goes underneath this bridge on Powers that will connect to the Rock Island Trail. So yeah, there's stuff out here to see and explore, and a sense of nature too. It's really nice.
Yeah, the Sand Creek Trail is broken up in a couple of places, but where it ended at the Vibes ballpark, that's actually where the new Coleman Park is scheduled to be built. So that'll be a connector through there. And then it will be built up in different places. Some of that's TOPS money, some of it's other money, some of it's PLDO money, which is money developers pay the city to build trails and parks and stuff like that. So there's all these different segments to it, but there's a street you can take to get around it and stuff like that. But pretty cool. Kevin, we're still dealing with some internet issues, and I really apologize for that. I think we should probably go, and we have some guests coming on for the next couple of weeks, so we'll see Kevin a little later down the road. But in any case, thanks everybody.
Thanks everyone. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast.